Hello and welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? Hope you're well. Today I've got an amazing video. I'll be showing you how to make 5 easy pickled vegetables which can be made under 5 minutes. In this video I'll be guiding you on how to make radish infused with turmeric and thyme, beetroots and cinnamon, carrots and cloves, red onion and thyme, cabbage and star anise, all under 5 minutes. The great thing about these recipes is that they do not contain sugar and great for people on a no sugar diet. But of course, each recipe can be adapted by adding sugar to the pickling solution. If you want to know how to make these delicious and quick pickled recipes, please keep watching. First, I'll start with pickled radish infused with turmeric and thyme. For this recipe, I'll be using radish, a sprig of thyme, a teaspoon of sea salt, a teaspoon of turmeric powder, a teaspoon of black pepper, half a cup of white vinegar, and a cup of water. Here's an overview of everything I'll be using. To begin, I'll take off the top and the bottom part of the radish and slice them into coins. You could also go with any shape you prefer and use any variety of radish. When slicing the radish, try to keep the sizes similar so that the pickling solution infuses into the vegetables evenly. Now that I'm done slicing the radish, this is what they look like. And this is an example of the size I'm going for. Next, I'm going to prepare the pickling solution. I'll start by adding water, white vinegar, turmeric powder, black pepper powder, sea salt and thyme into a pan and let it cook on low heat. The goal is to heat it up so that the salt dissolves and the thyme infuses into the pickling solution. I'll give it a stir, and when everything has dissolved, I'll set it aside. Next, I'm going to start transferring the radish into a jar. I'm using a 370 ml jar. Then I'm going to throw in a sprig of fresh thyme and fill the jar as much as I can with the sliced radish. I believe I've stuffed the jar as much as I can. So here's what the jar looks like. I love how the green color of the thyme contrasts with the red color of the radish. Next, I'll pour in the pickling solution and seal the jar. I just love the look of this and how the green color of the thyme contrasts with the red radish and yellow pickling solution. This can be consumed immediately, but I prefer to leave my pickled vegetables for at least 48 hours so as to let the pickling solution infuse into the vegetables. I'm going to set this aside and transfer it into the refrigerator once it's cooled down. And that's my recipe for pickled radish infused with turmeric, black pepper and thyme. Next is gonna be the pickled raw beetroots infused in cinnamon. Most people usually like to cook their beetroots before pickling them. I've got a recipe of this which I'll link somewhere above in this clip. For this recipe, I'm not going to cook the beetroots. Please stay tuned to find out how this will turn out. For this recipe, I'm gonna be using beetroots, raw uncooked beetroots, half a cup of cider vinegar. I'm using cider vinegar because it's slightly sweet and will go really well with beetroots. But feel free to use any type of vinegar you've got available. I'll be using a teaspoon of sea salt, a cinnamon stick, a cup of water, and of course a glass jar. I'm using a 370 ml glass jar. Here's an overview of everything I'll be using for this recipe. I have peeled my beetroots and I'll be using 2 medium-sized beetroots. I'll use a grater so that they are thinly sliced, as I will not be cooking the beetroots before pickling them as explained earlier in this video. The reason why I'm not going to be cooking the beetroot is because I want it to maintain its rich, earthy flavor. Now let's get to grating. Slicing the beetroots with a grater was a great arm exercise which I haven't done in a while. While grating the beetroots, I noticed that the beet juice was splattering all over the table, so I decided to go off camera into the kitchen to grate the rest of the beetroots. Now that I'm done grating the beetroots, this is what they look like. I love that they are thinly sliced and even in size. Next, I'll prepare the pickling solution by adding water, sea salt, cider vinegar and cinnamon stick into a pan and turn on the cooker on low to medium heat. The goal here is to heat the pickling solution until the salt dissolves and the cinnamon sticks release its flavors into the pickling solution. I'll give it a quick stir, let it cook some more and turn off the cooker. Now I'm going to transfer the grated beetroots into the jar by using a tongue. Again, I'm going to fill the jar as much as I can. Now that the jar is filled to the brim, this is what it looks like. Just look at that gorgeous color. Next, I'll add the cinnamon infused pickling solution, but first I'll take out the cinnamon stick and add it to the jar. Then add the pickling solution to the beetroots. That way, the cinnamon stick will continue releasing its flavor into the jar of pickled beetroots. I'll use a fork to push down the beetroots to release any air bubbles, then top up the jar with more pickling solution and then seal the jar. Just take a look at that vibrant red color. And that's my raw beetroots infused in cinnamon. Again, you can consume this immediately, but I prefer to consume my pickled vegetables after 48 hours or more. That way, the pickling solution is fully infused into the vegetables. Once it's cooled down, I'm going to store it in the refrigerator. Now, let's get into the pickled carrots infused with cloves. For this recipe, I'll be using carrots, bay leaf and cloves, a cup of water, a teaspoon of sea salt, a 370 ml glass jar, and white vinegar. Here's an overview of everything I'll be using for this recipe. I'll start by peeling the carrots. Carrot peeling isn't a task I enjoy at all, but it has to be done. Now that the carrots are peeled, I'll start slicing them into coins. Feel free to go with any shape you desire. I was really tempted to eat these carrots as I was slicing them, but I had to fight the urge and resist it. Now that I'm done slicing the carrots, this is what they look like, and here is the size I'm going for. Next, I'll prepare the pickling solution by adding water, vinegar, sea salt, bay leaf, and cloves to a pan. I'll turn on the cooker on low to medium heat and wait until the salt dissolves and the cloves release their flavor into the pickling solution. I'll give it a stir, then turn off the cooker. And next, I'll transfer the carrot coins into the jar using a tongue. I'll also add in a bay leaf and top up the jar with more carrots. And next, I'll add the pickling solution and an extra bay leaf with the cloves in the pickling solution and seal the jar. Look at this beauty. The color looks so beautiful. And that's my pickled carrots infused with cloves. I'm going to leave this on the kitchen counter to cool down and transfer it into the refrigerator. Just as with all pickles, you can eat it immediately, but I prefer to leave mine for at least 48 hours before consumption. That way, the pickling solution would have properly infused into the vegetables. And next, let's get into pickled onions, which is one of the most popular pickled vegetables. For this recipe, I'll be using 2 medium-sized onions, fennel seeds, 2 sprigs of thyme, half a cup of cider vinegar, a teaspoon of sea salt, a cup of water, and a glass jar. Again, I'm using a 370 ml glass jar. And here is an overview of everything I'll be using for this recipe. I have peeled the onions and will begin slicing them lengthwise. I'll slice them as thinly as possible. While making this particular video, before I finished slicing the first half of the onions, my eyes were stinging badly. If anyone knows how to prevent this, please leave your comment in the comment section. I would really like to know. After slicing the onions, I'm going to separate them so that they are not stuck together. I believe when the onions are separated, the pickling solution would infuse into the onions much better. Here's an example of the size I'm going for, and this is what everything looks like. Now let's make the pickling solution. I'll add water, salt, fennel seeds, cider vinegar and thyme into the pan, turn on the cooker and let it cook on low to medium heat. This will enable the salt to dissolve and the spices to release their flavor into the pickling solution. I'll give it a quick stir, turn off the cooker and move on to the next step. Next, I'll transfer the sliced onions into the jar using a tongue. I'll also push down the onions and add a sprig of thyme, then carry on adding the onions into the jar. Can you see how pretty that looks? And next, I'll add the pickling solution as well as the thyme added to the pickling solution in the beginning. I'm going to use a fork to push down the onions as they keep peeking out. Then I'll seal the jar. And that's my pickled onion infused in thyme. I'll leave this on the kitchen counter to cool down, then transfer it into the refrigerator. And the last on the list of my 5 vegetables you can pickle under 5 minutes is pickled cabbage infused with star anise and coriander. For this recipe, I'll be using a medium-sized purple cabbage. It's my favorite variety of cabbage and it's rich in antioxidants. I'll also be using a cup of water, star anise, sea salt, white vinegar, a teaspoon of coriander seeds, and of course a glass jar. I'll be using a 370 ml glass jar. Here's an overview of everything I'll be using for this recipe. I'll start by dividing the cabbage into 2 and take out the core. Then I'll separate each half into 2 and start slicing the cabbage and transfer them into a bowl as I go. Now that I'm done slicing the cabbage, this is what it looks like, and here's the size I'm going for. I gave this a rinse off camera because I prefer to rinse my cabbage before pickling or fermenting. Next, I'll start preparing the pickling solution by adding water, vinegar, star anise, sea salt and coriander into a pan. Then I'm going to turn on the cooker and cook on low to medium heat until the salt dissolves. I'll give it a quick stir and turn off the cooker. Next, I'll transfer the cabbage into the jar using a tongue. Next, I'll take out the star anise seeds from the pickling solution and tuck them into the jar. Then add the pickling solution and seal the jar. Now just look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? And that's pickled cabbage infused with star anise and coriander. I'm gonna set this aside to cool down, then transfer it into the refrigerator. And this is my list of top 5 vegetables you can pickle under 5 minutes. Remember, these recipes can be adapted to your liking by switching the spices or adding sugar to the pickling solution. After the pickles had cooled down, I transferred them all into the refrigerator. Then 48 hours later, I opened up the pickles for a taste test and I was blown away by the flavors. I actually did a happy dance when I tried the pickles. The following day, I made avocado toast topped with pickled cabbage, pickled onion, pickled carrots, pickled radish, pickled beetroots, and sunflower seeds, and it was simply delicious. In this second clip, on a bed of spinach, I added pickled cabbage, pickled beetroots, pickled radish, pickled carrots, and pickled onions with avocado, baked beans, and a sprinkle of sunflower seeds. It was really delicious. So, I guess we've come to the end of this video. If you've enjoyed watching, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel and please don't forget to click the notification bell icon so that you can get notified whenever I upload a new video. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching. See you next time and happy pickling. Bye!